You got Maduro. Who is next?
When you brought Maduro out of Venezuela and hopefully sent a message to those drug cartels, probably look at the drug cartels in Mexico as well, in Colombia as well. And I think the message to them was cut it out, because we've seen what this president will do. He's not afraid to take out the drug boats on their way into the country. He's not afraid to take out the drug boats before they even leave the port. And so I don't know if there's a next, but I do think he sent a message loud and clear that whenever he draws a red line, do not cross it, because this president is not playing chicken.
Lara Trump, glad to have you here in Dubai.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here myself. What an opportunity to come to a place where I think has become a real cultural hub of the world here in Dubai. I meet people every day who tell me this is their home base. People from all over the world now consider Dubai to be home and a place that is very impactful and influential around the world. So I'm honored to be here and I'm excited.
Lara Trump, what a big brand name you got. I mean, Trump is huge.
Yes, Trump is huge.
So is that a positive thing or a negative thing?
Oh, well, it depends who you ask, I think. I think it's a positive thing. You know, I didn't have the last name Trump always. I grew up, I think, like a lot of people in the United States did, in a very normal family. And I think the name Trump has been, since I was a kid, synonymous with success, with thinking big, as Donald Trump has always talked about, and kind of doing great things. And so to have that last name for myself has always felt very important to me. And then obviously to see my father-in-law get into politics and be able to impact the world really in the way that he has, I'm so honored to have that last name. But you know, it does depend who you ask, because there are a lot of people out there who would like to say very negative things about the last name Trump. But I can tell you, as a person who came into this family, it is a great family. They have welcomed me from day one with open arms. This is a generous, hardworking family, much different than maybe some people would like to portray them. And I think the proof is in the pudding. You know, you look at what my father-in-law has been able to do in his business career, what he's been able to do as president of the United States. And then you look at our entire family, comprised of very successful, hardworking people. So I think it's a positive thing, but I'm sure there are people out there who would probably try to argue differently.
Some people say you are who you are because of the name, not the work.
Well, a name will only get you so far. And I think when the rubber meets the road and whenever you actually have to figure out whether somebody can handle something, that is all them. You know, we all got kind of thrown into at least the political space with zero experience. And it was very much a sink or swim situation. And everything that I've had my entire life, starting from when I was a kid, I've worked very hard for. You know, I grew up, I think like a lot of Americans did, in a very normal middle-class family. My parents gave us everything we ever needed, but not everything we ever wanted. And that gave me a great work ethic. And so everything that I have and I have been able to achieve, certainly it helps to have that last name to get your foot in the door. But if you don't have it, you don't have it. And people are not going to let you last for very long.
Tell me about the Mr. President himself. Sure, we have a personal relationship with him.
Yeah.
You're a family. What is the most thing that people misunderstand about Donald Trump?
Well, I think you can see Donald Trump's authenticity. And I think that that's something people are yearning for. You know, we live in a time where there's this ability on social media, in your photos, even in videos now with AI, for things to be fake and manufactured. Donald Trump has never apologized for who he is. He has always been the same person from the first time I met him almost 18 years ago to who he is today. He's not a different person like a lot of, at least American politicians, behind the scenes versus in front of the camera. What you see with him is what you get. And I think the American people, and maybe people around the entire world, have really appreciated that he's very authentic to the core. He doesn't apologize for any of the things he says, for who he is, for what he does. He owns it. He wears it well. And I think people might be surprised to know that he is probably one of the funniest people I have ever met. You do not get bored at a dinner with President Donald Trump. He is the consummate entertainer. He's always got a great story. And he appreciates a joke more than anyone else, because sometimes if you can't laugh at yourself, you know, like what are we all doing here anyway? So he's the best. I'm so grateful to have him as my father-in-law.
Do you see him as a person or a political movement?
I see him as both. I think that they've sort of become a bit of one and the same. I mean, to me, he's my father-in-law, he's my family, he's my husband's father and the grandfather of my children. But I don't think politics will ever be the same, maybe anywhere in the world, after Donald Trump came down the golden escalator in 2015 in Trump Tower to announce his run for president. He changed the game. He's made it so much bigger and so much more interesting to people than I think politics ever was. And that's a good thing, because we should all want to get involved in what happens in our countries and be part of politics and participate in it, because that's sort of our duty, at least in the United States. We get to vote for who leads us and who represents us. And for him to inspire people to pay more attention, maybe for better or worse on both sides, I think that's a good thing. And so I think he's probably both.
What is deep state? You guys keep talking about the deep state. What is that?
Well, when you go back to 2021 and the former president of the United States having his home raided completely out of nowhere in an unprecedented way, something that had never happened in United States history before, you have to ask yourself, well, what is behind this? What is the intention behind this? Who are the people behind this? Who are the people who say, you know what, despite the United States being a place where we, the people, get to choose who represents us, maybe we'll make the decisions behind the scenes and just allow the people to think they have some say in it. That's deep state. That's the people who would otherwise remove the ability of the people of the United States to choose their representatives, to choose their president, to choose their senators, to choose their congresspeople. It is very undemocratic, and it goes against everything we stand for as a country. And there have been people behind the scenes working for a long time, and I think Americans are starting to catch up with it. When you see a raid on Mar-a-Lago, when you see a president, a former president, and a person running for president again, indicted multiple times for absolutely insane things that everyone knows was incredibly manufactured. That's the deep state at work. That is the group of people who think they know better than the collective to make those decisions for us. And
who is the leader of these groups?
Well, I think there are a lot of people who are involved in it. I don't know the number one leader, but I do think that you look at the folks in Washington, D.C. who've been there for a long time.
Because he kept talking about Obama. Is he one of them?
Well, Obama certainly, a lot of people have a lot of questions about his intention, who his allegiance is to, about, who was really running the White House when Joe Biden was in there. Was it Obama? Was it somebody else? None of us know, which is a little bit of a scary thing as Americans. We know the auto pen was at work, that's for sure. I don't know who the leader of the deep state is, but I do know there have been a lot of people in our country who've been awakened to forces behind the scenes, pulling the strings that hasn't been the American people, and that's not the way we do things.
It sounds like you're talking about a conspiracy theory.
Well, they say the difference between a conspiracy theory and reality is about 6 months. Because a lot of things that people say, oh, that's kind of crazy, turns out that maybe it's not so crazy. There's a lot more light that gets shed in these places. And that's good, because the only way you expose things and you get people's trust is to shine a light in these places. And so maybe some people think it's conspiracy, but I think a lot of people believe that unfortunately, that's sort of what's been happening, at least in the United States.
Let me ask you about MAGA. Make America Great Again.
Yeah.
What does that mean?
Well, that means that we want to make our country the best it possibly can be. That for a long time, it felt like there were people who, instead of doing what was right for our country and doing the best thing for our country, were, for example, sending jobs overseas, sending it to China, to Vietnam, to Indonesia, instead of allowing American companies to prosper and American workers to benefit from that, allowing illicit drugs to flow over our southern border and poison our people and kill our people by the hundreds of thousands each year. That's not great. We wanted to, in 2016, when President Trump first ran, he wanted to ensure that every American had their shot at the American dream. That is to allow your children's life to be a little bit better than yours was, to be able to buy a home, to raise a family, not to struggle to make ends meet. And that's what Make America Great Again has always been about being the best version of America we possibly could be, and bringing safety, security, and prosperity to as many as we can.
You are talking about all the good about this MAGA thing, but still a lot of Americans see this is a bad thing. It's about going back, not moving forward.
Oh, I would say that is the opposite of what it is. You know, whenever you look at what especially this president has done, and I would say that the MAGA movement, if you will, has done, it's about ensuring that our future is bright, investing in things like cryptocurrency, making sure that we have a great AI policy, because we do have to look forward to the future. It's not about going back ever. And of course, there are people who've argued that, and critics who try to find any way to get a little bit of clickbait, but that is not true at all. And I think that most people in America who are being honest with themselves and are not just tuning in to certain media outlets who like to say those things would agree that putting our country first, making sure that everything we're doing is to the benefit of our people, and looking forward in all of these areas where it's going to be important for the future of our country to excel. The space race, we're going to send people to Mars. We want to put American astronauts on the surface of Mars coming up by 2028. That's forward looking. That's the future. That's not about going back.
Do you believe that America has the best practice of democracy?
Well, I think that you would be hard pressed to find anywhere else in the world where you have the freedom and the opportunity to rise as you do in the United States. The only thing that limits you in the US is your imagination and your work ethic. And anyone can come to America with absolutely nothing, start from the bottom and work themselves up to become literally anything they want. I don't think you find that many places in the world. And so I would still say America is the beacon of freedom and hope to so many out there who face oppression and tyranny. And yes, I do think that we are the consummate democracy in the entire world. Are we perfect? No. Are we ever going to be perfect? Probably not, but we can always strive to be better. And I think that that's what happens every single day. And I think that, you know, for the criticisms that my father-in-law receives, again, he's shown a light in places where people really weren't paying attention. And the frightening thing is, you think about what would the trajectory, not just of the United States have been, but of the entire world have been had Donald Trump not decided to run for president in 2016, had Hillary Clinton, who was likely the person who would have become president of the United States, had that happened, would we have been able to expose so much of the corruption and the problems that have happened within our government so that we can address them? And the answer is probably not. So while we're far from perfect, I think we are the most perfect version of democracy, of a constitutional republic anywhere in the world.
Who is better than U.S. democracy?
I'd say no one.
No one.
Who's better than the United States in terms of democracy?
Yes.
I think probably no one.
Really?
I would say we're number one. We strive to be number one, certainly.
What's wrong with Democrats?
How long do we have here? What is wrong with Democrats? You know, I think that once upon a time in the United States, the two reigning parties, the Republicans and Democrats, really kind of came from a similar viewpoint on things. Now, they had different ways to achieve those goals, but it seems like there has been this push to go further and further away from common sense when it comes to Democrats in the US. And what I mean by that is that whenever you are siding with criminals over US citizens, when you are championing things that people think are absolutely insane, instead of giving people ways to improve their life, to talk about the things that actually matter to them, like having the ability to buy a home for the first time, like, you know, bringing down inflation, giving us energy independence in America, securing our borders so that we're a sovereign nation. When you're doing anything other than that, you're not hitting the mark. And so you look at places like New York City right now, where they just elected a socialist as the mayor of New York City. That's a really scary thing. You just saw what socialism does to a country like Venezuela, where Nicolas Maduro was just removed there. And I know the people of Venezuela are very grateful for that.
Why did you do this to him?
There were 4 indictments against Nicolas Maduro. He has been trafficking illicit drugs that have been killing people in the United States for years. And the Department of Justice in the United States brought him to be tried in our criminal court system for his egregious violations of U.S. law that have poisoned our country, that have sent illicit drugs to America, have worked with other drug cartels, with gangs, and have been horrific to our country specifically. Now, the bonus of that is that the people of Venezuela, I think, feel in many ways like they've been liberated, because this man was a dictator. People lived in fear and under the thumb of Nicolas Maduro in Venezuela for far too long. And you don't have to take my word for it. Look at the celebration in the streets
But
of Venezuela when he
there's
was
something
removed.
called international law, and he is the president of Venezuela. He's recognized to be a president.
Well,
he has immunity.
What I'll tell you is I don't represent the United States government. I am a citizen
Do you support
of the U.S.
this or
I support it 100%. Anytime you're taking a bad guy out, I support it 100%. But as it relates to our U.S. laws, everything was done properly. Everything was done in accordance with our laws. And I think that it's about time you bring a bad guy to justice.
Was it because of the drug trafficking or oil?
Well, he's being tried for drug and weapons charges. So that's what a criminal court will decide in the United States. I think on top of that, you know, it's unfortunate that the oil there in Venezuela actually wasn't being utilized to its full capacity. That oil was being sent to places like China, which, you know, helps them. That oil was being used to facilitate some pretty nefarious things. And so that's a good thing as well. But it was all about, of course, the arrest warrant and the indictments.
Okay, let me ask you a question.
Okay.
Israel. Many people here in the Middle East say that Israel has strong influence on U.S. decision-making. Can you explain that to us?
Well, Israel has been our closest Middle Eastern ally for so long in the United States. And I think what we have wanted to see, I think all Americans, but specifically President Trump has wanted to see, is a stabilized Middle East. He wants the fighting to end. You know, this is a president who has solved 8 conflicts around the world since becoming president less than a year ago now, which is kind of amazing. And he wanted to see the conflicts here in the Middle East end. And of course, that was heavily influenced by what was going on in Israel. And so I think you saw an end to the conflict because of our great support for Israel, because we gave them what they needed as a country. And I think, you know, you look at the Abraham Accords during the first term of President Trump's presidency, he's been working towards stabilizing the Middle East and ending conflicts here since day one of his presidency, the first term. And so I think that it was just a natural foray into, obviously, he was handed a mess when he became president. He had to clean that up. One of those things was ending the war in the Middle East here. And so he's very happy to do it.
We have heard about the lobbying thing there in Washington. I mean, there's like an Israeli lobby. Does it work like that?
Not for this president. I'll tell you, the only person that this president is beholden to are the American people. He's never taken a penny from lobbyists or special interest groups. He's the only president to leave the White House with less money than he went into the White House with. And so there will always be lobbyists. There will always be people who are trying to push their agenda. He's influenced by doing what he believes is right for the country. And one of the good things for our country is when there are no conflicts around the world, especially in this part of the world.
Okay, you got Maduro. Who is next?
Well, I think that I'll tell you, I think his focus is heavily on ending the war between Russia and Ukraine. I think he wants to see that conflict come to an end. That's one that I think he would admit himself has been more challenging than he initially anticipated. When you say who is next, I mean, he wants the killing to end. He wants the right things to happen. And I think that also goes for the American people. You know, when you brought Maduro out of Venezuela and hopefully sent a message to those drug cartels, probably look at the drug cartels in Mexico as well, in Colombia as well. And I think the message to them was cut it out, because we've seen what this president will do. He's not afraid to take out the drug boats on their way into the country. He's not afraid to take out the drug boats before they even leave the port. And so I don't know if there's a next, but I do think he sent a message loud and clear that whenever he draws a red line, do not cross it, because this president is not playing chicken.
And who is the next Trump then in this Trumpism movement?
Oh, well, I don't know. I mean, I don't think you get better
There's no any preparation. I mean,
to be president.
Yes.
Is that the word on the street? You know, it's funny because when our family first got into politics, we were very green. None of us had any political experience. The day my father-in-law announced he was running for president, that was the most exposure any of us had to politics. We have all kind of learned as we've gone, but I think we've seen the good and the bad side to it. So I would say I don't know if there will be another Trump who ever runs for political office or president. I think we've seen the really nasty side of it. The things that people will say about you, the lies that are get told about you, the way you get characterized out there, by and large, especially by the legacy media in the United States. But we've also seen the really positive side to it, which is the way you can impact so many people by doing the right thing, by trying to make our country better, by trying to make the world safer and more stabilized. And so I don't know the answer to that, but I guess we'll have to just all stay tuned, won't we?
I would like to ask you about the Yemen issue.
That I cannot answer. I don't know. Again, I'm not a representative of the United States government. I'm here as just a standard citizen.
I mean, you're a media influencer, and you have some information. I mean,
nothing I can offer today. I'm afraid.
Lara Trump, glad to have you here.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.